All right, awesome. So this is part two of the NoFap logic trap. So in the first video, part one, we were addressing the cycle of addiction when it comes to using the NoFap method as a way of stopping your behavior with compulsive pornography use and masturbation. And so we understood that a lot of the language and a lot of the philosophy behind, NoFap and its communities can take us into ways of thinking that isn't that great or isn't that conducive when it comes to getting in the driver's seat of your addiction and managing to stop effectively and correctly and actually have like a good time stopping, right? So in part two, which is this video, we're going to be reading some NoFap community posts and sort of dissecting, the language that we see in them and why sort of buying into the advice or buying into the language that we see on screen can perhaps get us in a position where we just feel a bit helpless and hopeless. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm looking forward to it. So let's start reading some stuff. And if you're new here, my name is Joe, and I was in a full-time pornography addiction for about 17 years of my life, trying to actively quit for about 9 of those years. And, I tried the long list of methods that we typically use in order to try and quit this behavior, such as cold showers, such as exercise routines, such as replacement behaviors, such as meditation, extensive reading, going back into the past to try and find stuff. And it even got to the point where I took 2 paid programs in order to solve the problem, with unfortunately no lasting success. And so it's safe to say I've been through the pain, I understand the struggles, and I'm here to relate with all of you guys. And so eventually I got third time lucky and I met Tom Molyneux and Mary Paulus, who taught me the Beyond Compulsion method, which is a method that directly addresses addicted neural pathways, allowing me to get my pornography behavior under control. And I can sincerely say it's given me a second chance at life. And I've never looked back since. And so now what I'm trying to do is exactly the same as what those two awesome people are doing, trying to spread awareness, trying to spread the message out there with the method and how addicted neural pathways are something to be looking at when it comes to stopping your compulsive pornography use or any compulsive behavior for that matter. And that should be me for waffling on this big intro. So let's just get into some NoFap community posts and let's analyze them and see where we are going wrong when buying into them. Alright guys, so just a reminder, this was from the last video that we did. So if you haven't watched this video and you just want a bit more context of like what's going on, we went through the addiction cycle of using NoFap as a way to quit and like the logistics of what's exactly happening in our mind and the methods that we try and how they sort of eventually lead into a state of mismanagement, and how when using the sort of correct way to quit compulsive behaviors by proactively rewiring the brain, how that ends up in a better situation where we make a choice and we can deal with all of this stuff correctly, such as embracing urges, such as managing thoughts, such as identifying different thinking patterns which can take us down a result that we don't want, and how to sort of navigate that landscape. But yeah, we talked about like the NoFap method of doing things and method sort of strategies and language, and this is going to tie into the post that we're going to look at now. So this is just a continuation from the first video, and the first video is also available for before this one in case you want the added context. But without further ado, let's get into some NoFap posts and give them an analysis. And so just before I start and we start diving into some of the language that we're going to see in some of these NoFap community posts, I just want to make it clear that this isn't meant to make anyone feel stupid or inadequate, or that they don't have the capacity to solve their own problems. I want it to be coming from a place of, I used to post every single one of these posts that you're about to see, right? And that given that I went through eating turds metaphorically for, trying to solve this for over a decade and a half, that I, was posting stuff like this back then when I didn't understand what I understand now. And I just want to make it easier just to say, look, I was that guy. And if you are watching this and you see that one of your posts is up on here, I want you to just reframe it as, it's me posting this, right? Because I did post this before. I bought into all of these before, because each post I've curated here is specifically chosen because I used to believe those thoughts and the posts and the content within them. And there are many more that I used to sort of post and believe, but we'll stick with these for now. But I wanted to make that clear, and so it comes from a place of just understanding that I've been through it, and you guys are good for taking the step to try and fix this. So the first one we got, guys, is the chaser effect post. Now, the chaser effect is a concept which is, one, very common in the NoFap Reddit. We see it a lot. And two, it's a concept where you've climaxed and you are looking for a second consecutive climax straight after the first climax. So whether it's done through masturbation, porn and masturbation, or actual sexual intercourse, your biological or biochemical wiring in that moment is telling you, okay, I'm in a situation where I have access to sex, and therefore I might as well use this short window or short period of time where sex is available so I can procreate as much as possible in that moment as I can. Now I have access to it, right? Now, that is the concept. Now, whether this is actually objectively true, which I have no reason to believe why it isn't, but whether it's true or not, when it comes to the purpose of actually stopping compulsive behaviors, it isn't too relevant. And the reason why is that, once let's say you've chosen to engage in your pornography behavior, your compulsive pornography behavior, which we're looking to stop. The thing with engaging even once in your pornography addiction is that once you've engaged even once, compulsive desire is indefinitely going to keep on happening. So it might happen as a chaser effect, as we call it, straight after the first climax, but it also is going to, in most cases, keep on cropping up more and more and more within the week or the 2 weeks or the month that you've just engaged after. Engaging in your compulsive behavior is going to only increase the desire to engage again once you've engaged in it. And so the sort of philosophy we want to adopt when it comes to rewiring addicted neural pathways in this situation is, whether you're having a chaser effect, or you're 2 or 3 or 4 days after you've engaged, it's about embracing the temporary discomfort moment by moment. Now, let's say the chaser effect brings you a moment of temporary discomfort or a very strong urge straight after you have engaged already. It's irrelevant whether the urge is strong straight after you've engaged, or let's say 2 or 3 or 4 days down the line. The temporary discomfort needs to be embraced the same way as it always should, and therefore you just want to focus on the urge you're feeling, the discomfort you're feeling, the strong emotions that you're feeling moment by moment, and just process them in the moment in the correct way, which we'll get onto a bit later. So the second thing I want to say about the chaser effect is, because this relates to the realm of the scientific and how, the mechanisms behind the behavior might be running, And I was of the opinion that we should sort of understand the science first, right? You might as well see what the cogs and the wheels inside the mind are doing to sort of get a clear picture of how to stop all this, right? It makes sense, but the reality is that after going through all this, is that even if we were to understand concepts such as how delta phos B sort of reacts with the addicted mind and the rewiring process and how that all gets put together, or if we were to sort of understand how dopamine drops below baseline before it comes back up after engaging, like, it's all well and good understanding all that, but because you have addicted neural pathways when we're in a full-time addiction, there's a lot of other things that need to be sort of taken into account and dealt with, such as thought patterns, junky thinking, dealing with discomfort and having the right mental stance. There's a lot of other things that are a priority when it comes to just stopping, and so we don't want to get into the analysis of the science too deeply, even though it's interesting to know. It isn't the sort of priority focus when we're looking to stop. Alright, so this next one, it hits home with me. I felt this countless times before. Let's read it. So, I've almost relapsed within the past 2 days. It's so hard. Why are all the urges getting so bad? They've been ruining my day. Please someone help. When will this get better? So here we've got an answerable question. So when will this get better? Well, the answer is indefinitely, but obviously that's not answerable because indefinitely doesn't give a time frame. So we keep it as an unanswerable question. Also, when you're asking this question, when will it get better, you're putting yourself in a mind frame where it's future thinking. You're looking into the future, not focus on the present moment, processing the temporary discomfort moment by moment in the moment, which is where we want to be when it comes to actually rewiring our addicted neural pathways and embracing discomfort when it comes, right? And I don't want to get into the past 2 days thing, because I think with this post, it's referring to the clock time, referring to the past 2 days they've been feeling discomfort, which is fine as long as you're not in the counting day mentality. Just having that observation is fine. But what I want to mention here is the second point, which is it is so hard why the urge is getting so bad. Now, I was in this situation because I didn't want to feel the urges. I just wanted to have an easy ride and just not feel this discomfort. And I didn't want to relapse, because every time I felt really strong urges, I was so compelled to relapse, and I chose to engage inevitably because I didn't know how to deal with all those urges at the time, and they were quote unquote so bad when I was thinking back, right? Now, the mentality I have is, well, when I'm having a very strong urge, it's the best opportunity to have when you're rewiring. When you have the right method, when urges come along, they are really good moments. They're great opportunities to rewire the addicted part of the mind, go through the process. In the Beyond Compulsion method, we got the 5-fact script, which we read out to ourselves and think through the choice of engaging and rewire our brain in these moments. And ultimately, when making a successful choice, we choose not to engage and gain all the benefits from these intense moments of intense urges. So when you have the right tools, these hard moments you should really look forward to them. And it's actually enjoyable quitting when you get on the other side of one of these periods of discomfort, one of these periods of urges, and successfully process it, and you're thinking, I did it, and you get that lot of benefit there, and and it's rewiring your neural pathways actively. Enough of these urges, repeating that process, you're going to be in a very good place indeed. All right, detox is just brutal. So this is one of the better posts, and again, I said all of this stuff before as well, and so let's give it a read. I'm coming back to NoFap after several years of trying to moderate and live with my porn addiction. Needless to say, I had no success in trying to moderate it. Absolutely super difficult to moderate it. When you're in a full-time addiction or you try to compartmentalize that addiction by, let's say, okay, well, I'll pick every Thursday to engage in my porn addiction. Once you choose to engage even once, you're back in the addiction indefinitely. You're back in the cycle of, okay, well, if you've got addicted neural pathways, that tolerance cycle repeats itself like any substance or any sort of compulsive behavior or drug. Behavior starts to escalate, and it's just very hard to just not deal with the junky thinking rather, and not have that really impact you. My addiction is responsible for ruining my late teens, early 20s, and I'm not going to let that do it to my mid 20s. I was in this exact position. That really hits home, and yeah, it's real, guys. Real consequences on your mental health and physical. These last couple of weeks have been brutal. I finally managed to stitch together a 3-day streak, only to relapse and then hold off PMO for a day and a half before relapsing twice. Now I am back at day 0, but I can feel its hold over me starting to weaken. So again, we're talking about the counting days mentality here, which is very common in NoFap. And again, like I said last video, I want to mention that counting days, you're simply counting just a metric. You're counting a number of simply the amount of days you've just not engaged in pornography for. And the problem with this is that it isn't actually a good measure of how free you feel in the moment by moment. And it's just a number, right? Because even if I was on day 30, day 90, day 120, however many days I'm on, and I'm counting them, if I'm still feeling the relentless desire, if I'm still feeling really crappy about not being able to engage, and if I'm just feeling absolute discomfort and horrible during those 90 days or however many days I've gone for, you're not actually free in the moment, and you're not actually dealing with the addictive mechanism. You're not dealing with the addictive neural pathways, which is prompting that compulsive desire, which is sending all that junky thinking to you and just having a crap time. And it's possible to have the tools to make it an enjoyable process. The other concept I want to talk about is I can feel its hold over me, and it's sort of like, in the cartoons when you get the anvil dropping on one of the cartoon characters. It's sort of that hold. It's got a hold on you, and it's holding you there because it feels so powerful and you feel so powerless. And this is the sort of NoFap philosophy, the sort of NoFap language of trying to fight the addiction. And it doesn't need to be this way with the right tools, but I've totally been there. I totally understand where that's coming from. Just the fact that I'm not using porn multiple times a day or lying in bed doom scrolling all the time has made such a huge difference for me. Excellent. I'm finding myself with endless amounts of free time, and even my energy is going up. Good. Downside is I'm facing some real withdrawal symptoms with low mood, tiredness, and restlessness/anxiety. Guys, all those symptoms are very normal, very expected to be faced in withdrawal, very part of the process. And so, when you're going through withdrawal, expect all those things. Expect to feel cranky. Expect to feel that low mood, and just, we all know it anyway. These symptoms prove that this is a real addiction and not something I can just live with and moderate. Same thing that we mentioned up here. Here goes another serious attempt at quitting porn. And I mean, I've said that nearly after every relapse I did, and I think we can leave it there on that one. But I just want to also mention that the language of detox is just brutal. These last couple of weeks have been brutal. When urges come, when discomfort comes, when strong emotions come up, yes, that's part of withdrawal. And in the moment when you're feeling those urges, you're going to want to engage, right? There's no sort of way out of the wanting of engaging, because it's expected. It's expected to want to watch porn. It's expected to PMO and engage in it, right? But the difference here is when you have a tool that allows you to process that urge correctly, put the rational mind in the controller seat, or the cockpit, if you want to call it that, and deal with the urge correctly and start the rewiring process in that moment and facilitate a choice whether to engage or not. If I engage, I'll get these consequences. If I don't engage, I'll get these benefits. Having that choice in that moment and feeling the discomfort in the moment can really make a difference, and not make it seem like it's a fight or it's brutal or it's unbearable, right? So I just wanted to mention that. All right, this one hits home, guys. So let's get into it. On a 2-day streak, and I'm already feeling urges. FML, man, I'm sick of this. I literally just want to stop. Yeah, I felt that too many times. I just want this problem out of my life. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to stop this. I just want to move on. I've done push-ups, and I went for a walk, and I can't stop thinking about it. I need help. Yeah, man, I really feel that. And this concept is, very common. So what we'll do is we'll read the comment as well, because that ties in. So the comment says, who replied to it says, read a book, repeat exercises, sprint outside, talk to a friend, do anything not to give into temptation. Now, this mentality was, it's replacement behavior / sort of exercise routine, right? So what I used to do was, when I felt the urge, I would feel the urge. Let's say if I was sitting here, I'll go outside, do a lap around the block, I'll run around the block, and maybe I would still have the urge, or maybe I wouldn't have the urge anyway. I would deal with it by doing a run, right? That's what the NoFap advice told me. I was like, right, give this a try. And although behaviors such as read a book, repeat exercises, whether you're sprinting, push-ups or whatever, whether you do those things or not, and these are good things to do, don't get me wrong, but because when you're doing them, it's sort of a reaction to the symptom, a reaction to the effects of addicted neural pathways. It's not actually connecting with the compulsive desire itself. It's not connecting with the addicted neural pathways and everything that's invoking them. It isn't dealing with the thoughts that come into your head, the junky thoughts, the self-deprecation thinking, all this stuff that comes with the addicted part of the mind, in order to try and get you on its one-track path to get you to engage. And so doing all of this stuff, it's good in the moment, and it may sort of delay the urge, right? It may sort of stop the urge when you're outside running or doing push-ups. You may come back in and not feel the urge, but then inevitably, because compulsive desire refuses to be ignored, and because of your addicted neural pathways, you're wired to want to watch. You're wired to have those urges, and inevitably you'll have to face it at some point. It isn't connecting with that, and therefore it's just delaying the inevitable relapse, delaying the inevitable feeling of wanting to engage so bad, and you end up choosing to engage, right? And so again, replacement behaviors, they just deal with the effects of an urge. It's not connecting with the desire. It's not using a process, not using a system to address the addiction directly. All right. Could use a chat. Super triggered. Wouldn't mind a chat to get my mind off things. I've certainly been in this position before. I wanted to sort of partner up with someone, be that an accountability partner. One of the intentions I had when I eventually got to a point where I signed up for 2 other paid programs after the NoFap sort of period, and that sort of mindset of wanting to reach out, wanting to talk to someone about it, was definitely something I felt that I needed to do. And yes, it is the right thing to do. It definitely is the right thing to do. You need to get help. There isn't any advantage of staying in an addiction and staying with an addiction alone and not having anyone to help you with it. So guys, below this video there is a link for a 30-minute free call with me, and we can chat about things, and I can give you pointers what to do next. And I'll post Tom and Mary's channel as well, where you can find more information on the Beyond Compulsion method. But guys, definitely get help if you've been suffering with this for a long time. I know how it feels. I went through 2 paid programs, and like I said in the intro, it They didn't land in much success, but this was sort of the void I was trying to fill, right? So when it comes to actually having a chat, especially when it's an accountability partner, you could chat about things, you could boost each other's morale, you could say, don't worry, bro, you've got it, or like, it's all good, man, you can get through this, you're strong enough. And it's good to have that camaraderie with people, but if you don't have an intentional strategy, if there isn't an intentional sort of method of addressing addictive neural pathways, and let's say, perhaps you're in a group, right? You're in a men's group, or you're in a recovery program, which sort of there's a weekly call, or there's a weekly meeting where you guys chat about wins and losses and what you went through in the week. It's all well and good relating to each other in terms of, you're all addicted together, and it's a good perspective to come from, because you know that you're not in this alone, and you can relate to other people, and that's great. But if in those groups there's no sort of intentional strategy to say, all right, guys, what's the sort of plan of action here? How can we change our addictive neural pathways? What's our method out of this situation? How can we sort of help each other and put intentional direction on a strategy? Then you're just talking about experiences but not actually making any progress, or at least that was the story for me when I was in these other groups. So guys, definitely reach out for help. Just ensure that if you are getting accountability partners, if you are looking for people to talk to, ascertain that there is a strategy behind the conversation, and that you will get to a place where you're engaging with discomfort, you're holding that position, and you're coming from a position of strength and high morale, right? And so ensure that if you're looking for help, keep those in mind, and make sure you execute on that basis. All right, 90 days to NoFap, fire, and that's a good number. But again, going back to counting days, the issue here is that, counting days is simply just a metric. It's simply just a number. How long you have not done X for. It doesn't measure. It's not measuring how feel you free in the moment by moment. Because even if you're in 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, you could be feeling garbage for all of those days, having all sorts of junky thoughts, having all of this mental health issues where you're just thinking negatively about yourself, even if you're having all these days off it, because it's subjective between people. I mean, 90 days for one person could be the equivalent of like being 5 days in for another person, and a lot of it is due to the mental stance and the mental positioning of different people. So again, guys, the number of days isn't a great measure of how free you feel and of how sort of good you feel in your life when it comes to this. You definitely don't want to put your self-worth on a NoFap streak. I remember I was living streak to streak, and I was thinking, I was putting like my self-worth on the amount of days I could go without watching porn. I was like, oh, I don't deserve to feel good because I'm on day 30. I never deserve to feel good if I don't ever reach 90 days. Guys, stay away from it. Moment by moment, embrace the discomfort in the moment, rewire your addicted neural pathways in a good way. All right, this is a good one. Hey man, props to the guy who wrote this, or the woman who wrote this. Intention there is strong, man. Respect for that. So, things to do before I quit fapping. I decided that today I will quit fapping, and this will be my last time doing so. I mean, I already planned to do the one last ultimate fap, but I think I need more stuff. Can some of you suggest any? Now, the thing about even choosing to engage once is that you're activating all that addictive neural pathway. You're reactivating the compulsive desire, the addictive neural pathways. The desires will come back stronger. Even when you want to engage once, you're back in that addictive cycle of addictive thinking, that desire, that compulsivity. You're back in that situation where you have to deal with all the things that will come up after you engage, even once, right? And depending on the situation the situation of your neural wiring, if you've got strong addictive neural pathways to pornography, then you're back in the sliding slope as we all commonly sort of describe it, right? And sometimes it's just very hard to get back out once you even make that one decision, right? So it's something to be aware of. You're back in the addiction indefinitely. The other thing is the concept of I will quit fapping. Now, in the Beyond Compulsion method, we use the word stop, not quit. Quit implies that you're just going to stop. You're not going to give yourself another choice to fap. And the thing about the method of rewiring your addicted neural pathways correctly is tapping into your desire and really understanding that you have a choice, and you will always have a choice to engage, right? And if you're using language such as banning or quitting, you might on a macro level believe that, right? But or hold to that value, right? But when you use these words, you're taking your choice away. And a cornerstone of the BC method, which we will get onto in another video, as it's an important cornerstone to cover. The issue here is that you're not giving yourself a choice. You're saying, okay, well, I'm going to quit forever. It's going to be the last time ever. And you're just putting yourself in a state of deprecation thinking, which is quite problematic if you are looking to stop a compulsive behavior, any compulsive behavior. Okay, so we have a video here, and the title is I Like My Life on Semen Retention. And the video here is of somebody is walking on a path in a field, crops on either side of them. They got a little dog in front of them. They're walking, and they're in it's a nice day. They're just enjoying the moment, experiencing the nature. And one thing I want to mention here is that when you stop your compulsive behavior to porn or whatever it is correctly rewiring your addicted neural pathways, correctly engaging with discomfort moment by moment, you really start to feel the benefits. And one of the benefits there is you have a big sort of appetite for doing spontaneous things and just feeling joy about the simple things, and feeling, damn, I'm just going to have a walk right now and enjoy the sun or whatever you want to enjoy. Just go out and enjoy, and you get to experience those moments of just no mental conflict and going outside or doing your hobby or something like that, right? And they're real benefits, absolutely awesome sort of feelings that you can feel when on the straight line. Straight line being the state of embracing temporary discomfort, moment by moment, and choosing not to engage. But what I want to say here is that even if today you relapse and you chose to engage and you are feeling the consequences of the behavior, like we've always, like all of us have before, and we're feeling all these emotions, I just want to point out that you can choose to feel good right in this moment, even though I get it. It's something harder said than done, because I know how it feels to be in that moment. But when it comes to enjoying life, such as this video, you don't have to be on a streak. You don't have to be X days. You don't have to sort of feel like you deserve to enjoy these moments. You can enjoy these moments right now, and you can go outside, have a walk, know that it's okay to have one, and you don't feel like you don't have to feel as if the addiction should stop you from enjoying these simple things. And this is what I wanted to really get across, because a lot of us get into the self-deprecation of those, the addicted neural pathways will prompt us into self-deprecating thoughts, and it can really be not a good place to be, because we feel that we're so undeserving of simple moments like this and enjoying them and being in the present moment. It's nonsense. You can do it right now. And I think, after getting off this video, make an effort to sort of do something simple. Forget about all that self-deprecating thinking, even though it's there, of course. But just don't let it control you. When it comes to moments like this, you can choose to feel good. You can choose to embrace the moment and do these things and enjoy them, regardless of where you are in the addiction. So I just wanted to break that myth, and hopefully you guys that'll really help some guys, because I really needed that. All right, next one on the theme of self-deprecation. You have to start taking it way more seriously than you do. This is causing you PEID, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, for those of you that don't know, causing you depression, leading you only to failure, and you want to stop, but deep down you want to watch porn again and feel the pleasure and the extremely unnatural high dopamine levels, which is true. You do want to stop the behavior, but you also want to keep on watching, as it is expected. If you have addicted neural pathways, this is expected behavior. This is so effed, guys. Please don't destroy yourself. Distract yourself. Focus on life goals, gym, study, work, whatever, and try to change your coping mechanism from porn/fapping to something else, please. So obviously we've covered the replacement behaviors before. Distract yourself, focus on life goals, gym, study, work, whatever. Back to the whole push-up and the running around the block thing. These mechanisms or these behaviors will only sort of circumvent the behavior. It will just delay the wanting, and the wanting will come back because it refuses to be ignored. Compulsive desire will come back, refuses to be ignored, and if you don't deal with it in the correct way, if you don't address the compulsive desire correctly, if you do not address the addicted neural pathways directly and correctly, then the compulsive desire will keep coming up no matter how many replacement behaviors you put in front of it, beside it, behind it, wherever, right? And second of all, and try to change your coping mechanism from porn fapping to something else. Coping mechanism, I obviously don't want to get too in the context of this post, that is. I don't know exactly what it might mean, but I would say, to correct this post, change your strategy. Obviously, don't distract with the other stuff. I remove that bit. I would say change your strategy to rewiring addicted neural pathways. But otherwise, this does cause PID if the tolerance cycle increases and your use increases. That's just expected in an addiction. The behavior escalates, and it's very possible that it does do that, especially if you've got very strong addicted neural pathways wired to pornography. That is a very common situation, and it's leading you only to failure. Again, failure in what sense? We want to be objective as we can about it, but I'd say that it definitely fails to sort of make you feel content, which is ultimately, I think, one of the most core things about all this. You definitely want to live a life of contentment, and you don't want to have a compulsive pornography behavior depriving you of that, right? And you want to stop, but deep down you want to watch porn again. Yeah, it's correct. You want to stop and you want to watch porn at the same time. You don't want the consequences, but you also want to engage. Very expected, very normal if you have addicted neural pathways, and there's nothing wrong with you for that. So, and again, it comes back to this language here. You are so effed, guys. First of all, the situation is temporary. So the addicted neural pathways, they're not set in stone. They're due to neuroplasticity. Addicted neural pathways can always be rewired. It's only in a temporary state of however they're wired right now, and they can be changed. So it isn't, effed, as you say, in that sense. But also, There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you as a human being. There's nothing wrong with you as a person. There's nothing wrong with your desires. It's down to the fact that your neural pathways are wired in a certain way at the moment, which happen to be addicted to pornography, just as if it was addicted to nicotine or marijuana or any other substance which can be considered, well, known to be compulsive, right? So I just wanted to make that distinction clear. Alright, anybody feels unlucky as soon as they fap. I think what they mean is, does anybody feel unlucky as soon as they fap? Completely understandable, and I think I know why I picked this one. So let's give it a read. Like, sometimes you feel lack of respect from people you encounter. Stupid little clumsy events happen. Even when aiming to get something done, it's not available. And I just blame everything on porn. So very common. Having self-deprecating thoughts in general. So when you've developed these addicted neural pathways, what happens is, when over and over again you've said, right, I'm going to stop watching pornography, and later then you watch it, or having that constant conflict of, I'm wanting to watch pornography, but at the same time you don't want to watch pornography, when in reality, of course, you doing want to engage, you just don't want the consequences of engaging in pornography. This mental conflict really sets off a load of emotional it really sets off your emotional bandwidth in a negative way. Gets you to do a lot of self-deprecation thinking. That becomes a habit. Every time you relapse, we're self-deprecating. And when in social situations, I completely understand this. Lack of respect from people you encounter, because you're carrying yourself into a social situation with shame and perhaps nervous body language and not feeling yourself, and that really shows, of course. And there's that saying as well, which is also very common, of they know that you've relapsed, they know that you've been engaging. Obviously this is not true, objectively true, but you have this sort of mindset where you believe it to be so, right? And again, stupid little clumsy events happen. Even when aiming to get something done, it's not available. It's sort of, there's this really dark cloud over your eyes, where you're just looking at everything from a very negative lens, right? And this is very common, and it's very expected. It's very expected when you have addicted neural pathways and you have these negative thoughts going through your mind. It's not you. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's literally just how the brain is wired. And having these negative thoughts, having this self-replication thinking, is a way for the addicted part of the mind, the addicted neural pathways, to prompt that compulsive desire and get you to engage because of all these emotions that you're feeling, right? And so, blaming everything on porn. And this part is sort of right. It's not the porn though, it's the addiction. It's being in the addiction that keeps you in this cycle, because this is a very good, pretty much high level description of the addiction cycle, right? So again, it's the addiction that needs to be dealt with. Not so much blaming the porn, although that's what we're using to engage in a compulsive behavior in. Alright, awesome. So looking for a NoFap buddy, 20 years old, been on the loop for a long time. So without a doubt, the most single important service you can do for yourself that aids in your recovery from porn addiction is to find someone to talk to. Yes, get help, and yes, relate to other people that are in the same situation as you. Being in the pornography addiction, that is, because they have addicted neural pathways, and you can definitely relate to the symptoms, as we all can. On the accountability partner side of things, refer to what I was talking about earlier. As long as you have an intentional process that you can both engage in, by all means, but you can't just be talking about just wins and losses. There needs to be that intentional action behind your partnership as well. In this case, rewiring addicted neural pathways using the method. Porn is like an escape from reality to us, and it is accompanied by lots of shame and guilt. That shame dissociates us from our true self. Real consequences, guys, yes. Guilt and shame can put you in a situation where you're feeling perhaps depression, or you're feeling low self-esteem, and these are real consequences, guys. And the addicted part of the mind, those addicted neural pathways, will add fire to these thoughts, and so to speak, right? They'll add momentum to these thoughts, and they'll use them in order to get you in a position to prompt you to engage in your compulsive behavior again, and the cycle repeats itself, right? The next paragraph: I believe that the key to curing any form of addiction is consistent communication with the people who suffer the same thing as you. Yes, and no. If you mean by constant communication, like we said, yes, if you're in communication with people in a similar situation as you, like we just referred to with the find someone to talk to part, get help, relate to other people in your situation, accountability partner if you have the right intentions, using methods, yes, that's fine. But when you're saying consistent communication, and if you mean you have to spend years and years and years constantly communicating with groups, you don't. If you have the method, if you have the right training, if you have the right education and the right tool set, you can learn all that, go away on your own, and yes, you can actively rewire your brain away from compulsivity towards the straight line, and you don't need to be constantly checking in with people in that manner. I mean, we have people in the Beyond Compulsion method which do this. They just learn the tool set, learn the education, and they've attended the sessions, they did the work, and they went away, and they come back now and then just to talk because it's just a good vibe, because they're on the straight line and not engaging. And it's great, but you don't need to be in this situation where you need to be in contact with people forever, right? So I wanted to make that clear. But otherwise, yeah, relatability is important, and you should find people that you relate to just to know that you're not on your own in this problem. That's a start. Recovery is a long road of struggles, and it is not just a sharp, quick turn and everything will be fixed. Yes, not everything will be fixed, like that is the correct part. But when it comes to a long road of struggles, it doesn't need to be this grueling process. If you have the right education, tools, and mindset, it can be a fulfilling process that you don't need to feel that it's a drag all the time. You just need to know what's coming, how to deal with those problems, and you should be good. I'm not going to say it's easy either. It's not an easy process by any means, but it's not this grueling. It doesn't have to be this grueling, this drag of struggles that we label it as. But this is exactly how I used to think, and so I don't blame anyone for feeling this way, because that's what it seems like when you're in the addiction and you have addicted neural pathways. There is something deeper to that addiction than just behavioral patterns. If you mean by all of this, yeah, you may have had a initial cause that caused the trauma, and that trauma may have prompted you to use pornography to deal with those strong emotions. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to solve that, like we said in the previous 2 videos. It doesn't mean you have to solve a trauma and all of this, background stuff and your environment, your situation. It doesn't mean you need to solve all of these to actually stop your compulsive behavior. If you have the right tools to deal with compulsive desire and deal with addictive neural pathways, that's what you need to know to stop, and then you can deal with everything else after. And so yeah, I think this one is a very good one, because we can relate to a lot of that language. Okay, you are addicted to PMO because you are living without purpose. So I've addressed this in the previous video. I had a take on it. And in the BCA, the Beyond Compulsion Academy, I think we thoroughly disagree with this statement, because there isn't any substantial evidence to really validate this claim. And in fact, the opposite is more true than anything. And we get all sorts of people in the Beyond Compulsion Academy, but take it from me, I've been in 2 other paid programs before this, like I've mentioned, to quit pornography, and the people that come into these programs are, fathers, grandfathers, uncles. You have doctors, lawyers, engineers, gardeners. You have pastors. You have religious people. You have people going on missions to other countries, administering medicine, administering food, administering aid, solving problems in very dangerous situations in war-torn countries, etc. A lot of purpose is within these people, right? And their pornography behavior isn't stopping them from doing it. The reality of the situation is you are doing your purpose, or you're not doing a purpose or said purpose, but the purpose here isn't the main thing in the equation here. It's just you have addicted neural pathways active. Whether you're on your purpose or not, whether you're on your goal or you're not, whether you're focused or not, if you have addicted neural pathways, you simply have addicted neural pathways in that moment, temporary addicted neural pathways, which can be changed, right? And so, like I said in the last one, elite athletes, famous people, people in the music industry, people in the TV industry, they have all, come out and said and, explained their challenges with their pornography addiction, their sex addiction, their whatever addiction that they had, because it all relates to addicted neural pathways. And these guys had to execute on their purpose. They had to execute on their craft a lot in order to get in these positions. Debatable, maybe some less than others, but that's up to you to decide, right? But there's a lot of purpose that needs to be executed here, right? And so, it just really falls flat with this claim. But again, I used to think this, so I was in that same boat at one point. And the problem with this title is that it can just get you into a lot of junky thinking. It can get you into a lot of self-deprecation because you feel that you're looking in the wrong place for answers, and you feel that there's something wrong with you because you don't have a purpose, and because you're engaging in pornography. And let's say you do have a really meaningful life, and you have a lot of meaning, and you're a parent, and you're doing all these things, right, for fulfillment in life, and then you're still engaging in your pornography, then you're just setting yourself up for a really hard time in your mind. So this is very important that we stay objective about these things and really not sort of make a baseless claim in that sense, right? Really sort of get accurate with the thinking, right? But look, I was once there, and I also used to think on these lines. And so what I thought I would mention is that in the Beyond Compulsion Academy here, we have these modules. So you go through the training, and then you'll eventually get to the straight line modules. And when we have these questions such as, am I on my purpose? Am I relapsing because of my purpose? All these modules here are resources and education and tools that will put you in the right mindset, put you in the right frame of mind to deal with all this stuff that comes up, and to keep you focused on the straight line, just being in the present moment, deal with the urges when they come, and deal with the discomfort correctly, so you don't have to be worrying about all these thoughts that come in. And it really sort of channels your focus into one thing, which is rewiring your addicted neural pathways and staying on the straight line.